All right. We talked a little bit about manual labor, right? Manual laborers need. All right. There's machines that are displacing workers. There's corporations who are making labor organizations impossible. We talked about things like scabs or strike breakers. We talked about controlling the legal process. They have the best lawyers. They've got politicians. We also talked about how they could force workers to take those ironclad oaths against joining a union with the yellow dog contracts. And of course, the last thing we left off talking about was the creative idea of these entrepreneurs here to create company towns that would essentially, they would own everything, including the houses and the people who work there. Sounds like a great gig. Oh, you need that house? We'll just take it out of your paycheck. You can live here. It's awesome. What ended up happening was with the commodities and everything else that people needed to live, they were in debt to the company, living in the company town. All right. And of course, that limits your freedom too, as to what you can and can't have, I'm sure. As far as when you want to have something done, you have to talk to the company manager, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, in response to this, obviously, this union movement here, this need for the corporations and everything else, we see the couple of unions that come up. Most famously here, we have the Knights of Labor, which is a group that replaced the National Labor Union. The Knights of Labor actually began as a secret society. Key thing here is they were open to everyone. And they also, didn't matter whatever your gender or race was, they also were a little overzealous, meaning that they talked about social reform and changing society overall, a little unrealistic. Another important aspect here of the union movement was the Haymarket Square. Which took place in Chicago, Chi-Town. Haymarket Square is an important date because, was that a key date and figure? It wasn't? Should have been. We had dynamite that exploded during some protests, and it injured some cops. And of course, then people looked at the dynamite, who was responsible, and it was a bunch of anarchists. Right? So what ends up happening is we have anarchy being linked to unions. This leads to a massive riot and essentially destroys the reputation of the Knights of Labor.
What year was that?
Haymarket Square, I don't have the date on it right now. AT? So I was asking you guys. I didn't write it down. 86? 1886, Jack is telling me. Got it? Good stuff. All right.
There you go.
1886, thank you.
Yep.
We've got the another last major thing I want to talk about here is the formation of the AFL, the American Federation of Labor. Good old Sam Gompers, right? Samuel Gompers. This is kind of a bread and butter unionism. Traits that you have to know about the AFL is they were more realistic with wage demands. Hours, working conditions, they didn't go over the top here. They also used walkout and boycotts. And the important part of the AFL is that they kind of stabilize things. And by 1900, the view of labor is seen more as not a chaos starter, right? Organized labor does not necessarily lead to having major issues. I'm adjusting the camera here. All right. So, wrapping up here. We've been talking about industrial growth, and so the last thing I want to talk about for Chapter 10 here is when we sum it all up, industrialization judgments, right? Were these people robber barons, or were they captains of industry? Were these people robber barons, or were they captains of industry?
That's like a view of morals.
Well, yeah, and here's some things to think about as you're judging this, all right? When we compare America, class tension was never as high in America as it was, or as big of a deal in America as it was in Europe. So that's a good thing. Hey, they're captains of industry. This is good. Another good thing is that it creates a belief in upward mobility. But two bad things here, two negatives. Number one is destroys traditional farmers' values. Destroys traditional farmers. So it destroys traditional farmers, like their values and their spirit and their spiritual lives, and it replaces it with capitalism. So this concept that Jefferson pushed for, this agrarian society, is not there. All right. And then it also, we've got two classes that result. We've got the owners. We've got the owners, and we've got the labor class. All right. Everybody good?